And how you doing, everybody? Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another live show here on Fenway Faithful. How you guys doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. We got another busy day of news today. Listen, I feel like both streams that we've done here on the channel, I've opened up with saying, are we actually full throttle? But listen, I don't remember all this much news last offseason, right? We only made two signings last offseason, right? Lucas Giolito, Cooper Criswell. It felt like Jordan Montgomery was going to be coming to the Red Sox for like 8 years at one point. This has been a much different start to the offseason. It feels different. It smells different. I'm excited for it. We had all of that Juan Soto talk yesterday. That was pretty much just gone today. I didn't hear anything about that at all anywhere. But we got some other news. Sean McAdam, he went on foul territory today, and he gave some interesting little golden tidbits that we're going to dive into tonight, involving a White Sox lefty, not Chris Sale. We all remember Chris Sale, but another one by the name of Garrett Crochet. We're going to dive into that. A former Red Sox pitcher, could he be making his way back to the Red Sox at some point? We'll dive into that. And also, Sean McAdam, he touched on another thing today with the bullpen. We'll talk about that as well. But everyone, before we do get started, if you can, just hit that like button for me. And if you are new, subscribe. We're getting a little closer here to 1,200 subscribers. Our goal is hopefully 2,000 maybe by the end of the month. I would love if we could reach that by the end of the month. But everyone, let's get to it here. Let's get to it. We got a lot to talk about here. And like I said, Sean McAdam today going on foul territory and giving us the news when it comes to Garrett Crochet. Now, I don't know if I can actually play this. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear the audio or not, but we'll pretty much just dive into what he was saying here. Basically, it's been no shocker by any means that the Red Sox have been connected with Garrett Crochet. They've been connected with him, even going back to last offseason, right? He was a name that was popping up. And, and also going into the trade deadline, right? The Red Sox, you had a couple little connections there. Nothing crazy. You were mostly seeing the Dodgers getting connected with him. You saw the Orioles. But the Red Sox did show interest in Garrett Crochet at one point. And one thing that Sean McAdam mentioned here is that the White Sox have interest in Wilyer Abreu. Now, we've talked about a lot of different trade scenarios that could involve some Red Sox prospects, right? You got the big four. Right? You got Roman Anthony, Marcelo Meyer, got Christian Campbell, Kyle Teal. We all love the big four. We would love to hang on to them. But, I think a lot of people have accepted the fact that, it could be a possibility that the Red Sox might have to part with one of those guys in a trade this offseason. Now, when it comes to Garrett Crochet, I think Wilyer Abreu, if they can get Garrett Crochet for Wilyer Abreu and some other prospects, I think that is an absolute win at the end of the day. Now, I do know it takes two to tango, but I think that if you do Wilyer Abreu and, a few prospects along with him, which Sean McAdam mentioned today, he said, you could probably center a package around Wilyer Abreu, throw in a few prospects as well. If you can get a deal done with that, I think that is a tremendous move, because that kills two birds with one stone. It's no secret at all that the Red Sox need to improve the top of the rotation. Yes, there is a bit of a floor there, right? Tanner Houck, great season this past year, breakout season. Brian Bayo, he definitely has more of a ceiling, in my opinion. I feel like he can do some more. Cutter Crawford right now, he's pretty, in my opinion, he's more, like a 3-4 in the rotation. But don't forget about Lucas Giolito. He's coming back. He's always been an innings eater, a guy that's been, like a 3-4 ERA kind of a guy. So yeah, there is floor when it comes to the Red Sox rotation, but you need to kind of beef up the top of it, right? Tanner Houck, I see him as being, like a 1A, 1B kind of a guy, or, even just a number 2. I think Crochet would be perfect alongside with him. Along with the fact too, I'm a fan, of just having a good old lefty in the rotation as well, even a couple. I don't think that hurts one bit. Now, again, Sean McAdam dove into that the White Sox are interested in someone like Willie Abreu. And don't forget, the White Sox have scouted the Red Sox. Go back to September. There was a report out there that the Red Sox had been, or the White Sox had been scouting some of the Red Sox prospects and players. Now, if you were to do Willie Abreu, okay, if you were to center a package around Willie Abreu, well, you can definitely do that because he has a good amount of value coming off a very solid rookie season. Willie Abreu, this is a guy where I think he is more of a floor, but I think he can more of a floor player, but I think he's a very solid guy to have on your team because he contributes on both sides of the ball. He's going to give you a good offensive profile. There is a bit of platoon risk there. He needs to improve against the left-handed pitching, but right-handed pitching, he did very good against that this year. Very good defensively out there, winning a Gold Glove, great arm out there. He is a guy that you could pencil into your lineup every day, and you have him for 5 more seasons of control. Now, coming into the offseason, I was thinking, what would the White Sox want, right? Because the White Sox are obviously a couple of years away here from really getting back into any kind of contention at all, maybe even a few years. I mean, who knows what that timeline could be. But going into the offseason, I was thinking, you know what? I feel like the White Sox would probably want a close to ready major league guy, a guy whose clock has not started at the major league level. But, really when you think about it, 5 years is a long time, man. If the White Sox are back to competing, let's say, this year, 2026, or at the bottom of the barrel, 2027, right? Willie Abreu, if you bring him in, you still got 3 more seasons of Willie Abreu at that point. Still a good amount of time. I think he would be a very solid player for the White Sox to get back. Again, because just a good player. Sure, the platoon risk, but the 5 seasons of control. A very good trade chip. Hey, I like Willie Abreu a lot. He was one of my favorite players this year. But, when it comes to a need, for the greater need of the team, I think he is someone that you would part with because they already have so many left-handed bats. I think they need to part with Masataka Yoshida as well. Way too many lefties there. So if you're to go with Abreu here as the centerpiece, I definitely think you can add a few more guys here and bam, bam, you got the job done, right? You're taking a look at maybe a guy like Franklin Arias, right? A guy that broke out in the minor leagues this year. Number 6 prospect in the Red Sox system, a shortstop prospect. Shortstop prospects have a lot of value. I think you could even argue here that maybe he could have a bit more value, right? He did have a breakout year, so not too much of a track record there, but very young. A guy that I think could be a good add for the White Sox in their organization moving forward. You got some other guys here. Someone like a Yoeilin Cespedes, I think, could make a lot of sense. Yoeilin Cespedes was having a great year this year until he broke his hand. But there's a lot of offensive upside. And also getting back to that, the White Sox want position players in trades. They're not going to be looking to add some pitching, right? Yoeilin Cespedes, I think, could make some sense. Even someone like Miguel Blaze, I think, could make some sense, right? A lot of upside with him. He just hasn't been able to get it going down in the minor leagues. The ceiling is through the roof with this guy. If he puts it together, I think there's a lot of potential for him to be a star player in the game down the road. You could also throw in someone like a Mikey Romero in here. Mikey Romero had himself a good season in the minor leagues. 1st-round pick from not too long ago. Kind of keep going down the list here. Chase Magroth, I'm kind of biased towards the guy. I really want to keep him. He can play multiple positions. In a way, kind of reminds me of Dustin Pedroia. Just a gritty player, a guy that he's a good hitter overall. I would like to keep Chase Magroth in the Red Sox organization. I'm sure the White Sox would love to get him, though. Someone like an Alan Castro, a pretty decent outfield prospect. Someone like him, I think, could make some sense here. Maybe even a catching prospect like Johanfran Garcia. You got Ghost Nixon Garcia here. He had a very good year in the minor leagues. I think I wouldn't be surprised at all to see the White Sox do something like him. There's a lot of position players in this system that the Red Sox can do. So, obviously it wouldn't be all this. I was just adding guys here. So, if I'm looking at a package, I'd probably do something like Willie Abreu, Franklin Arias, maybe you can do Mikey Romero. possibly Alan Castro. I mean, there's even someone, like Blaze Jordan. I'm a big Blaze Jordan fan. He's been a guy, people have known about for a long time. Go back to when he was like, what was it, 12, 13 years old. Guy was hitting moonshots in home run derbies. And here he is in the Red Sox system. But, if the White Sox wanted to get a guy with some power upside, yeah, Blaze Jordan, I think, could make a lot of sense as well. But there's a lot of avenues the Red Sox can go here. If the White Sox are interested in Wilyer Abreu as a centerpiece of this deal, I mean, I think it's inevitable for a deal to get done. I just don't see how you don't get it done with all of these other prospects that you could plug in. Sure, you got some teams out there like the Philadelphia Phillies. They scare the crap out of me when it comes to getting a trade done for someone like a Garrett Crochet. Dave Dombrowski, man. I mean, this is a guy, he's called Dealin' Dave, for a reason. He's made a lot of trades in his career. He's made a lot of blockbuster trades too. I wouldn't be surprised to see him come to the table here and try to offer something hefty. Maybe center a package around something like Aiden Miller. I wouldn't be surprised about that at all. You got Aiden Miller over there. You got Justin Crawford over there, son of Carl Crawford, right? There's a lot of different avenues I think the Phillies could go. I think the Mets are an intriguing team. I've talked about it too. In a way, they kind of scare me too because they're very motivated coming into this offseason. I know they just put together that farm system over the last couple of years. Would they be willing to part with prospects already? I'm not sure. I don't know if David Stearns would be willing to do something like that, but hey, if you want to beef up that rotation, they could definitely give a contract extension to Garrett Crochet as well. I would not be surprised at all to see the Mets make a strong push there. You could center a package around Jet Williams, right? The Dodgers are always there in trade talks. They got a good farm. There's the Yankees, right? You got Spencer Jones there. Sure, he strikes out a lot, but there's a lot of raw power in that bat. Would not be surprised at all, to see the Yankees get in there, especially when the Red Sox are trying to get them, right? The Yankees, they're probably trying to play spoiler or at least try to drive up the price, right? But in my opinion, I have made this prediction this offseason. I think it just makes so much sense for Crochet to end up with the Red Sox. They have the need. They have a guy that could be a centerpiece, and you wouldn't have to give up any one of the big four. I think that's such a win. That is huge, in my opinion. I mean, if you don't have to give up any of those guys at the top of the at the top of the farm system, man, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And of course, those guys can end up making their way, to Fenway Park at some point over the next year or two. Or, if you wanted to go make another trade out there, and if you could maybe even get another star player, you still have those guys at your disposal. I'm not saying they should trade any of those guys, but if you wanted to, you still have them, even if you got Garrett Crochet, only giving up a Wilyer Abreu. So I'm very intrigued about this. Right now, I am not afraid to say it. I feel like this is going to get done. I just have a good feeling about it, especially now that the White Sox are okay, at least according to Sean McAdam, with what he said on Foul Territory. Wilyer Abreu being the centerpiece, that's amazing, if you ask me. You kill two birds with one stone. You get rid of a lefty. Get a top of the rotation guy. I think that's perfect. And you don't have to give up. You're killing three birds with one stone. You get a top of the rotation guy. You get rid of a lefty bat in the lineup, and you don't have to give up either of the top four prospects. That is just, that's dynamite, if you ask me. We'll just have to wait and see. We're still in the early going here in the offseason. It feels like, in a way, things are moving slow so far, but they're also moving kind of fast at the same time. We just heard the Juan Soto news yesterday. My goodness, there's a lot going on right now. We have not been used to this over the last couple of years. So let's see what ends up happening here. Moving on. Let's talk about an old friend, Nathan Eovaldi. All right, Nathan Eovaldi. The Red Sox are among the teams showing interest in Eovaldi, according to Rob Bradford of the Baseball Isn't Boring podcast. Make sure you go get the notifications turned on for that. Go subscribe wherever they got their podcast going. They got good stuff over there. And the Play Tessie guys, right? They do a great job over there too. But Nathan Eovaldi, listen, I wouldn't be mad one bit if Eovaldi came back. I would not at all. I expect Eovaldi to go to a postseason contender. When I think of the postseason, I think of Nathan Eovaldi, man. This is a guy that has stepped up in the postseason numerous times, right? Go back to 2018 with the Red Sox. Go back to the Rangers just a couple of years ago. This guy's a gamer, man. I think he's going to end up going to a team that is well-positioned to make a run at the postseason or even just make a run at the World Series, for crying out loud. And if the Red Sox are ready to plant their flag and say, hey, we are back, then why not Nathan Eovaldi coming back, right? We've heard rumblings over, the last year. There was even some talk at the deadline where maybe, even the Red Sox could possibly get involved for someone like Nathan Eovaldi. I can't remember where that came from, but I remember just seeing it on Twitter. Nathan Eovaldi, man, for me personally, I feel like they're just checking in everywhere. You hear so much of this, the Red Sox, over the last couple of years, they've been dubbed as the interest kings. I'm not surprised at all, man. Agents are going to put this out there. Hey, the Red Sox, they're interested in Nathan Eovaldi too, right? There's a lot of teams that would love to bring this guy in. Most of all with Eovaldi, he's not just good, but considering that he's 34 years old, he's not going to be probably looking for a 5-year deal. This is a guy that could very well, 2-3 year deal. That's why a lot of teams are going to show interest in him. And he was very productive this past year. 29 starts, ERA, and a FIP right around a 3.8. Still a guy that can slot into the middle of the rotation. And if he's healthy, he's going to give you a lot of good production. And especially if you make the postseason, he's a guy that you're confident in handing the ball to. Yeah, man. Nathan Eovaldi. I'll always love Nasty Nate. I would love for him to come back. I will say, though, with Eovaldi, I would want the Red Sox to add something for the top of the rotation first. If you wanted to add Eovaldi after that's done, if you can go land Garrett Crochet, then yeah, Nathan Eovaldi, go after him after. Would not be at all upset about that. We'll just have to wait and see how that goes. But I'll say this, if you could have a rotation of Tanner Houck getting the ball on opening day, Garrett Crochet as your number 2, Brian Bayo as your number 3, Lucas Giolito as your 4, and if you had Nathan Eovaldi in that mix, what happens with Cutter Crawford at that point? Do you move him to the bullpen? Do you involve him in a trade, right? If the Red Sox pick up if they trade for Crochet and pick up a guy in free agency, I think you might start to think here, okay, what happens with Crawford? All right, I remember last offseason, I believe it was Lou Merloni that was talking about the idea of Crawford being a back end of the bullpen guy because he has that kind of mentality there. He struggled with the home run ball this year. In my opinion, the fact that this guy just threw 180 innings, I would imagine, this is a guy that's more slated to be a back end of the rotation guy, but I don't know. I mean, if you end up acquiring a guy in free agency and a guy through a trade, then I think it's fair to ask, what do you do with Cutter Crawford? You're not going to be putting Giolito in the bullpen, right? So it'll be interesting. There's a lot of work to do here. So another thing that Sean McAdam mentioned today on Foul Territory, again, I'm not going to play the clip because I don't even know if you can hear it. So I don't know. He says here, they're definitely looking for another power arm or 2 at the back end of their bullpen. Sean McAdam doesn't think it's a guarantee that Liam Hendriks will immediately return as the Red Sox closer. I have mentioned this, right, a few times, maybe even more than that, right? Liam Hendriks has not pitched since 2023, right? It was looking like maybe he was going to make a comeback at the end of the year last year, and he just wasn't able to. Liam Hendriks is going to have rust. To me, I think it's almost unfair giving the ball to the guy, right? I think he would love to get the ball at the end of the game, but I would like for Liam Hendriks to kind of work his way back a little bit. I would not be upset at all if the Red Sox added a bona fide option at the back end of the bullpen. It has been no secret that Red Sox fans out there would love to have someone like Tanner Scott. Tanner Scott makes a ton of sense for the Red Sox. I don't mean to be, kind of this guy that's saying like, oh, the Red Sox need to go get Juan Soto, go trade for Garrett Crochet, go sign Max Fried, go get that guy, because realistically, I don't know. I don't want to be that guy that's like almost like a dreamer, right? Got to be realistic too. But if their Red Sox were ever able to spend money, or if they were ever willing to spend money big time on a reliever, I feel like Tanner Scott would be that guy because he checks off a lot of boxes for you. You need someone at the back end of the bullpen. You need another lefty in here. I think Brennan Bernardino is a good lefty for middle relief. Bring him in certain situations. But if you want a shutdown guy, another lefty option, Tanner Scott is absolutely that option. This guy's one of the best relievers in all of baseball for the last couple of years. This year, between the Marlins and the Padres, 72 games, ERA at a 1.75, FIP at a 2.92. This guy is absolutely nasty. Now, he got off to a bit of a tough start this year. He was a bit out of whack, but he got himself under control after that first month. Very solid with the Padres. After he went over there, he actually reduced the walks after going to the Padres. He was looking very good in the postseason as well. In a way, I don't want to upset Dodgers fans, but in a way, like, he was looking so good in the postseason where I almost kind of wanted to see more of the guy, Unfortunately, the Padres just couldn't get it done in the postseason. So, but Tanner Scott, like I said, he checks off, both the boxes. You need a shutdown guy. You need a lefty. He makes a lot of sense. He's going to get a lot of money, though. And I just don't know. Craig Breslow, sure, obviously, we're hearing all the things. The Red Sox are aggressive. They're in on a lot of guys, right? They are serious about, spending a couple of bucks here this offseason. But I still wonder, Breslow, when it comes to adding guys to the bullpen, Breslow is a guy that, in a way, kind of reminds me a little bit of Chaim Bloom. He looks for those diamonds in the rough. He looks for value. He's a guy that, is very heavily invested when it comes to the pitching development side of things, the pitching lab kind of stuff, to where he can find a guy out there. You can see a guy out there and you can probably get a couple of things, a bit more out of guys. I wonder if maybe that could end up being the plan. But again, if you're willing to drop the bucks, for someone like Tanner Scott, listen, don't be surprised this year if he ends up getting something around $18 million per year. I'm not joking about that. That sounds a little crazy. I would not be surprised. I think he'll at least get $16 million per year. I think that's a very real possibility, and I would not be surprised at all if he ends up getting a 4-year deal. He's not going to get Josh Hader money, but I could absolutely see something in 4-year in the $60 to $70 million range. Would not be surprised whatsoever. Tanner Scott, he would be a great fit. You got someone like Jeff Hoffman out there. There have been some rumblings about teams maybe looking at him as a starter. Honestly, if I'm looking at the Red Sox, I wonder if maybe they think Jeff Hoffman could be a starter. Look at what, bringing in Andrew Bailey this year, focusing on the strengths of these guys. I wonder, getting back to what I just said about Craig, he likes to look for value in guys out there. Could Jeff Hoffman end up being kind of like a Jordan Hicks kind of a signing from last offseason? The Red Sox, if they're looking to upgrade or add to the rotation, could they maybe see Jeff Hoffman as being almost like a cheaper option and a guy that you can put into the rotation at the back end, just like the Giants did with Jordan Hicks? I'm not saying that's what I would want, but I wonder if maybe they could be thinking that way, because this guy used to be a starter. He's one of the few relievers out there that has a 4-pitch mix, right? He never really got away from that. Sure, he kind of cut down on a couple of the other pitches. He stuck mostly with the fastball slider, but he was still working in the, the sinker and the, what was the other one? Yeah, he was working in the couple other pitches there too. Jeff Hoffman, man, would not be surprised at all if he ends up getting, a starter deal out there. We'll see. But if you can add something for the bullpen, he was tremendous this year with the Phillies. I think he'd be a great option at the back end of the bullpen. Will he get a 4-year deal? I think Scott gets a 4-year deal. Will Hoffman get a 4-year deal? I'd probably say no. I'd probably lean more to maybe a 3. I think that can make some sense there. We'll see about that. But there's a couple options in the trade market too. I'll say this. I love me some freaking Ryan Helsley. Am I the only one that loves Ryan Helsley out there, right? The Cardinals, they're in business when it comes to trades this offseason. They're looking to get rid of a little bit of payroll this year. Ryan Helsley is going to be a free agent after this year. I think it could make some sense for them to part with Helsley, bring in a good amount of prospects. He is going to cost you a little something. I would not mind at all. If you're looking for a guy that you can hand the ball to and you can count on shutting down games, this guy had led the major leagues in saves this year. 100 miles an hour on average with a fastball. I mean, hey, Sean McAdam, he says they're looking for a power arm. Well, there's a power arm for you right there with Ryan Helsley. I would love Helsley in this bullpen. Now, Devin Williams, I wouldn't say is a power arm. He's got some, decent velocity, but he's more of a stuff guy, right? A nasty changeup. I would love someone like Devin Williams. I know he had the bad outing against the Mets in the wild card round, had the back injury this year. I think Devin Williams would be a great option here. I wouldn't be surprised at all for the Red Sox to dabble in the trade market for a reliever. I wouldn't be surprised about that. To get a guy like Devin Williams or Ryan Helsley, it's going to cost you a couple of guys. It won't cost you, any of the, top 5 prospects. But, could you maybe put together some kind of a deal where, I could even see something like a Yoelan Cespedes and maybe one of these guys down here, like, a Cespedes and a Romero for someone like a Ryan Helsley. I think, honestly, that might sound crazy, but I think that is realistic. If they wanted a pitcher in return, maybe you could do Yoelan Cespedes and like a David Sandlin, something like that. Or maybe even like a Wickelman Gonzalez. I could see something like that too. Same thing for Devin Williams. I think you could see something similar. These are guys that are high leverage relievers that have a great track record, great stuff. It's going to be a little pricey for those guys. So, but everyone, I'm going to wrap this up here. For tonight. And listen, another busy day in Red Sox news. Garrett Crochet. I'll say it one more time. I do think there's a very good chance the Red Sox get a deal done. Yes, the teams like the Phillies worry me a little bit. The Mets, I think, could put together a strong package if they are willing to move on from some of those prospects. You always got to worry a little bit about the Dodgers, the Yankees. They're always trying to come in and get some deals done too. But I feel very good about the Red Sox getting something done for Crochet because they have the need. They're motivated. They have a lot of wiggle room when it comes to their farm system now, right? They have really built this farm system back up, and that's not even including the guys that they just drafted this past year. They just drafted a ton of pitching this past year. What's the farm system going to be looking like by the end of 2025? I wouldn't be surprised, to see some of these other guys, like Peyton Tolley. This is a guy they just had a high draft pick for this year in the second round. Don't be surprised if this guy really emerges for the Red Sox this year. I mean, there's someone like a Conrad Kaysen, right? This farm system could look even better by the end of the year. I mean, they just got a lot of good talent in that draft, man. The fact that you already have a great looking farm, they have the wiggle room, they have the flexibility to get a deal done for Crochet. Again, hopefully Abreu can be the centerpiece. Again, I love Abreu, but I think he's a guy that you got to part with. If the White Sox are okay with taking him, done deal all day, every day, not even a question about it. I know people out there are going to say, no, we can't give up Wilyer Abreu. No, you absolutely give up Wilyer Abreu for Garrett Crochet. Wilyer, I love you, my friend. But yeah, I feel strongly about a deal getting done. When I feel good about something when it comes to the Red Sox, I feel like it tends to happen more often than not. Over the last, 20 or so years that I've been watching the Red Sox, I got a good feeling about this one, ladies and gentlemen. We'll just have to wait and see. Hopefully we get some more Soto news this week. I'm not sure what day that meeting is. I think it's at some point this week. Hopefully we get something on that soon. And hopefully we got some more news tomorrow. Hopefully some more little golden tidbits that we can talk about. But everyone, I do plan to be back here tomorrow night. We could be having a very special guest tomorrow night, so stay tuned for that. Not 100% locked in, but I'm hoping we can get that settled and he can join the show for tomorrow. But everyone, have yourself a great night. Thanks for stopping by tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Have a good night, everyone, and I'll talk to you next time.